A very good evening to everyone. I'm Neha, Ambassador of Change for GETI, that is Global Education and Training Institute, founded and conceptualized by Dr. Sunita Gandhi with the vision of disrupting the education movement as we know it. To spearhead this movement, we organize in-service and pre-service training for teachers so that they're better equipped to disrupt the learning of students in the classroom. And under the same umbrella, to facilitate this process, we organize detox where we invite policymakers, educators, and researchers from around the world to discuss various best practices in education with us. And today, I'm very honored and thrilled to have with us this evening Mr. Hani Hussain, who is a lecturer at the Sultan Qaboos University, Muscat, based in Oman. A very warm welcome to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us again from your evening to our evening. A very warm welcome to you.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for the audience, and I hope this presentation will be beneficial to them.
Absolutely, sir. So, sir will be condensing his vast experience into the topic competencies of the 21st century language teachers, which I think is going to be a very important topic since most of our audience is basically teachers. We ourselves are a teacher training institute, and we constantly look forward to understand from the experiences of our guests. I will be putting Sir's presentation, and Sir will be very kindly taking us through his carefully drawn presentation from his experience. So I have your presentation on the screen. We can go ahead and let me know if you need my assistance anywhere.
Okay, thank you very much for this introduction, and I would like to welcome all the participants. Today's presentation, we are going to talk about teacher competencies for the 21st century. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. I consider myself as an educator and also a teacher trainer and a content developer and a curriculum and assessment expert. I have already graduated in 1998, and I have more than 24 years of experience teaching at schools, universities, at academic, institutions all over the world. I taught, kids, I taught children, adults, I taught also teachers. I have been working as a teacher trainer for a long time and as a Delta tutor with International House, British Council from 2012 and up till now. So I can assume that I have some kind of expertise as a teacher and, as I told you, as an educator. And I wanted to share with you some important tips maybe that might help you in your professional development and help you in your career. Okay. So today's presentation is going to be, this is an overall overview. We're going to talk about teacher competencies and frameworks, contextual changes. You are quite aware that now we face different types of contexts and also context, change from time to time. A year ago, we have been locked down for 2 years because of COVID-19. Maybe in the future there will be another pandemic. We don't know what is going to happen. So we want to know about these contextual changes and the implications also of these contextual changes, and want to be ready for these changes in order to fulfill, the fulfill our objectives, and at the same time to provide a quality service for our learners. And also, I will talk about courses and professional development, programs that I offer them, and also they be offered, online as well. So I would like you, from the beginning, if you have got any question, any comment, please in the chat box share your comments, because I will depend on your engagement in order to proceed and develop in the presentation. Okay, here we have some questions. I want to share, this question with you, and I want to find out what are your answers and your responses. First, the question: what is the difference between a competency and a qualification? If anybody knows, you can just write down your answers in the chat box. And the second question is, can you name the competencies that are prerequisite for a language teacher, that are necessary for language teachers? What are they? what are the competencies that are necessary for any language teachers from your perspective? You can put them one, two, three, four, five. The most important one, then the second, and then you can proceed. You can name 3, 4, 5 points, 8 points, whatever. And which is more important for you, a competency or a qualification?
So while we wait for some, people from the audience to answer, why don't I take a shot at the first question? I think I might have an answer.
Yeah, yes, of course. Yeah, go ahead.
So I think a qualification is something that you are certified. For example, I have a qualification in, say, a bachelor's. That's my qualification that I acquire from a certain institute. And a competency is something that I build over a period of time. For example, I'm competent at, say, a certain thing. It's something that I haven't studied basically, but over a period of time, through experience and expertise, I have, mastered it. Maybe is that the answer?
Yes, that's the answer. A competency is a skill that you acquired from your
Yeah.
expertise, from working experience. A qualification, it is, of course, it is can be a degree, a certificate, or whatever. As you mentioned, you give an example of a bachelor, an MA, a PhD. You can gain a competency while gaining a qualification. Okay, but some of the competencies that we gain from qualification might not be applicable to use them during professional life or during life experience. So that's why you want to differentiate between a competency and a qualification. Then the second question here: can you name the competencies that you think are necessary for a language teacher?
Um, Good listener, maybe.
Mm, mm,
I'm not very
okay.
sure about the second one, but I think I am very looking forward to the answer to the third one. That is, which is
Yeah.
more important, competency or a qualification? I think both are more important, but maybe competency holds more gravity. Is
Mm.
that somewhere on the same line?
In fact,
Although,
yes. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Your answer is correct. Both of them are important. You need a qualification to open the door
absolutely.
for you in order to be shortlisted for a job. But of course, you need a competency, first of all, to pass the interview process and to be
Yeah,
selected. And of course, you need a competency to survive in the job. After getting the job, if you are not a competent teacher, you'll not be able to survive. You'll not be able, to develop. Your service might be terminated after some time if, for example, here colleagues, administration, parents, students complain about your performance. So, of course, we need competencies in order to pass job interviews and get hired. I need competencies to survive and to develop and to promote in my career. But at the same time, I need qualification to open the door to be shortlisted for particular jobs. Okay, that's good. Let me answer the question is about, can you name the competencies that are prerequisite for a language teacher? Of course, as a language teacher, you need to have, or as a professional, you need to have some kind of professional ethics, professional values as a professional. And of course, you need also to have a certain level of language proficiency. You should be fluent in the language as a teacher. You should be able to communicate with your students, of course, communicate with all the stakeholders in the institutions. And also you need to have some kind of meta linguistic information. You need to be aware you need to be linguistically competent. You need to have linguistic competence. You need to be able to explain the language. You need to be able to know how the language is used as a language teacher. And of course you need other competencies as well, but these are the three, I think, the three most important competencies that you need is to be professional, to act professionally, to have professional ethics, honesty, and dedication, involvement. You should be eager to develop yourself. You should be able also to develop, others. The culture of giving and taking, because this is in fact is the core of education, is give and take. Okay, and the second most important competencies is fluency in using the language. You'll be able to communicate with people from all over the world. It is not only communicating with native speakers, as they say, British or American. You need to communicate because English, quite well, is used as a lingua franca, and it is used all over the world. I need to be able to deliver my message to different, types of audience all over the world, and they should understand what I am saying, and I also should understand what they are saying, so that we can come to common ground. So this is, in fact, is very important. Also, you need to be aware. You should have language awareness. You are a language teacher, so you should know quite well the technical, terms of technical terminology of explaining the language. You should be able to differentiate between, one term and another. You should be able to explain. You should be able to use meta language, which is the technical language of teaching, a language to a group of people, especially if you are teaching adults. But of course, if you are teaching kids, you might not need this language awareness or technical terms, but you need that. You need to be aware of them because you will be explaining the language, you will be talking about the language, so you need to be aware of the right terminology and how it is used to differentiate between different terms in language. Okay. um, so competency, what is going to help you to find out what is the competency frameworks that teachers need to refer to. So here there is a guide to teacher competencies for languages in education. Here you'll find there is a QR code. If you scan this QR code and save the link, you'll find there is a guide to teacher competencies for languages in education. And you will find out a lot of competencies there. You need to read what's meant by each competency, and you need to see how much you have already got from this kind of competency. Can you do, or are you able to cascade and deliver all the prerequisite things that are related to this competency or not? If not, so try to find out a course, try to train by yourself, watch a video, and try out, this kind of competencies. Try them out in your classroom and within your own context. This is very, very important. So just this is a guide, because in this presentation I'll not be able to go over the each competencies and to find out what are the main principles of each one, because you'll find out there are different points. So if you can, with your mobile cameras, just scan the QR code and save the link, so that you can go and refer to this competency guide. Okay. Here are some of the famous frameworks. If you want to refer to them, this is some of them, but not all of them. There's the European Profile for Language Teacher Education, the European Profiling Grid, which is, abbreviated by EPGAG, Equals Framework for Language Teacher and Development, and Cambridge English Teaching Framework. Okay, now here are the taxonomy of categories of teacher competencies for languages in education. So they put here 8 dimensions. There are 8 dimensions of the taxonomy. The first dimension, as I told you, the first competency that you need, and you need it not only working as a teacher, but as a professional, is professional values and principles: honesty, dedication, engagement. We said to have this kind of culture of give and take, to be committed, to be disciplined. You know quite well what are the professional principles are as a professional in your career. The second competencies is language and communicative competencies. You need to be competent in using the language. You should be at least C1 or high B2 to be a language teacher. And also you should be able to communicate with people from all over the world. You should be able to deliver your message. This is, in fact, is important. The third competency now, which is very important, is information technology competencies. You should be competent of using different types of platforms, technology. We use technology, on daily basis. even the mobiles that we have, this is technology. We engage with social media by maybe sharing videos, by maybe creating our own videos, creating our own content, trying to engage learners by using different methods and different ways. So in fact, we need information and information technology competencies to be able to utilize from all the tools around you, so that you can deliver, or you can interact with your learners. Number four is meta-linguistic or meta-discourse. Meta-linguistic, as I told you, is language awareness, to be aware of the right terminology that describe the language, to differentiate, like differentiating between what is a dynamic verb, what is a static verb, for example here, what is a tense, what is an aspect. Okay, what is meant by schemata? What is meant by maybe skimming, scanning? Uh, so different, different terminology. What's meant by TBR, total physical response? What's meant by TPL, task-based learning? For example, I'm just giving you example. What's meant by information gap activity? Uh, so you need to be aware with a lot of terms that is related to describing the language, describing methods of teaching, describing learning principles and learning assumptions, describing even learner problems and so on. As a language teacher, you need to be aware of that, because you are working with the language, you are working with learners, you are following some teaching principles, so we need to be aware of that. Also, we need to be aware of meta discourse. We need to be aware of different types of discourse: spoken discourse, written discourse, how you differentiate between spoken discourse and written discourse. And also we need to be aware of meta culture competencies. Quite well, language language is something that all people speak, but we speak different types of languages. What is appropriate in one culture might not be appropriate in another culture. So you, as a teacher, if you want to be a global teacher, you want to teach people from all over the world, you need to be aware of different cultures. You need to be aware of what are the taboos, what are things that might be culturally inappropriate in a certain culture, so you try to avoid them. What are the topics that you think that I don't need to bring them up inside the class and discuss with my kids, because it might be culturally inappropriate and it might offend some of the people. And if there's any kind of offending while you are teaching, this might hinder the learners from benefiting from what you are doing. So as a teacher, you need to be aware of these things. Competency number five is teaching competencies or teaching principles. What are the right principles that you need to follow? What are the right procedures, techniques that you need to follow as a teacher in order to deliver, a quality lesson? So this is, in fact, is important. I need to be aware of that. I need to be aware of. I need to have these teaching competencies. I need to have this kind of charismatic character. I need that when I talk, I can grab the audience attention to me. I need to be able to use, my voice and my sound in a way that is interesting as well. So these are teaching competencies that we need to have in order to be a competent teacher. Also, competencies for cooperation, because of course, as a teacher, you will not be working alone, or you'll not be working in a solitary island. You will be working with learners, you will be working with management, with parents, colleagues. You might be working with people from different backgrounds. So you need to have this kind of cooperation competencies. You need to be aware of how you need to be aware of how to share your point of views, how to be a great influencer. You need to influence other people and affect them. So this is quite important. Also, you need to learn how to listen, when to listen, and when to talk. So in fact, this would help you working as a team with a group of people. Then competencies for initial education and career long development. When you decide to work as a teacher or as a trainer or whatever, you have already chosen by your own will, you have chosen to take, a career in which you all the time you will be learning and you need to develop from time to time. You cannot rely on competencies that you have gained 20 years ago, and you can still be functioning and working with them with success, with learners, and with all stakeholders right now or in the present. We live in a world that is changing, rapidly, and things are advancing, very quickly at a very vast pace. So we need to develop as well. I need to, from time to time, to be engaged in my education and in a career long development. Also, professional learning opportunities. You need to know what are the professional opportunities that are suitable for you, that would help you to give you what you need in order to develop and to promote. This is, in fact, is a competency, and not all people are competent to choose the professional development program that is suitable for them, that would help them, to promote and to develop. Okay. So, are these core competencies still relevant? I think they are still relevant, and of course we need them, but we need to think about how are they defined. And as I told you, you need to refer to the competency guide, because you will find out the specific definition for each competencies, and you can find out what exactly you need to do in order to say that you are a competent teacher. What is viewed as success is said competency. So whatever you view from any competency, you view that you something that you can do, or something you can already deliver. This is said is a competency. So anything that you can do is said competency. And then we need to think about how are they actualized? How can you use these competencies in real life? Some people are competent, they have a lot of competencies, but because they are not applying them, they are not using them on daily basis, so they are not promoting or developing this type of competencies. So when you gain a skill, try as much as you can, try to use this skill. If you have a competency, maybe in making videos or in making interesting content, so try to make interesting content and try to deliver and try out this content on your learners in order to adapt it, to change it, or maybe to throw it away because it is not suitable, it has not achieved the aim that you have designed this content for. So you need to apply all the competencies that you have in order to develop them, in order to trim them, in order to adapt them so that they can be usable in your context. What are the key features of contextual change? Of course, here from time to time, we have different types of context. As a teacher, when you are teaching young learners in a school, this is a context. And you are teaching face to face, this is another context. If you are teaching young learners and online, this is a different context. If you are teaching, in a hybrid kind of context, means you have face to face and online. So this is a different context, which is blended learning. So we need to think what are the key features of the contextual change, because this in fact will have an impact on maybe my lesson, on my content, on my instruction, on my assessment and monitoring tools that I will use in order to assess what the learners have already achieved, or how much learning they have already gained from the lesson. So I need to trim and adapt all these tools. This of course depends on my context. So here there's a reflection I want I want you to be engaged in this reflection. So I want you to tell me what competency or competencies have you had to utilize more than ever before over the past couple of years. So over the past couple of years, can you tell me what are the competencies that you have utilized um, in your teaching in the last couple of years? And the second question here, what competency or competencies have you acquired and helped you to survive as an educator? So if you have got any responses.
So there are no responses to this slide, but for the previous slide, that is slide 3, we have some answers. We have people describing what competency is, what a skill is. So I think the audience is a bit late in answering the question.
Okay, that's fine. Let's go on. And if you have got any answers or any responses, just share them in the chat box, and
Yes.
then I can discuss them at the end of the session.
Okay.
Okay. Uh, Now, regarding here a change in context, what are the contexts? We have online learning. Of course, we have blended learning. These are the contexts that already we have been exposed to in the last couple of years. We have hybrid learning, which is face to face and online. So we have both of them. We have socially distanced, also distanced classroom, which is a different context that you as a teacher you need to be aware of that, and you need to, as I told you, to adapt your lesson plan, and adapt your instruction and your assessment tools in order to suit different types of contexts. So in online learning, of course, in any lesson you need lesson planning. Timing is important. The material, you need to look into the material that should be suitable for online learning. Classroom management, interaction patterns. It depends on the platform that you are using. Some platforms, there are breakout rooms where you can put the learners into groups so that they can work on tasks, they can work in pairs. Content knowledge, how to prepare and to design a content suitable for online learning, videos, and so on. The learning outcomes and assessment, you need to check by the end of the lesson how much learning or how much your learners have already gained from your lesson. So you need to ready to have this assessment tools that are ready, they are reliable, and they can tell you exactly what the learners gained from the lesson. And also it would help you to reflect on the lesson itself. Maybe you'll find out yourself you might need to follow up the lesson with an activity. You might maybe need to re-explain a certain language point later, because some students are not aware of it. Gives them some kind of collective feedback or individual feedback to certain learners. So assessment is important, and preparing the appropriate assessment for the learners is also important, and is a competency that all language teachers need, so that they can evaluate the effectiveness of their lesson, and also evaluate whether the learning objectives, the learning outcomes have been achieved. There is evidence that your learning outcomes have been achieved or not. Also, blended learning. So we have planning, teaching, and learning. Teaching and supporting learning. How you support your learners. Assessment of learning. There's assessment of learning which happens, at the end, and there's assessment for learning, which takes place during the course or during the lesson itself, after an activity, or after a stage in the lesson. You might give your learners an activity, or you give them a task to do. So based on the performance of the task, this will tell you how much they have already gained from that stage, and so on. Language, communication, and culture. I need to be aware of the communication and culture of the people, and the teacher as professional. We said that also this is also important. Okay, so and what do you think hybrid learning is? Uh, Classroom implication. So what is the best practice look like in a hybrid classroom? So in a hybrid classroom, for example, here, you can think of, I have, for example, here online, and I have, face to face. So in a hybrid classroom, the classroom, uh, what do you think the building should look like? The classroom itself should, how it should look like itself, the building itself, how it should like, considering the learner that will come to your institution. You should have some kind of information about what type of learners come to this institution. What are their cultural background, their educational background? You as a teacher, you need to be to know or to find out what are the needs of your learners. You need to be able to conduct needs analysis. You need to use some needs analysis tools, like maybe simply by engaging in a discussion. When you ask them some question and they respond, when they introduce themselves as students. So this would give you an idea, give you an indication, would give you an idea about their needs, what you need to focus on, so that you will able to help them to develop their language and language abilities. Identifying issues and finding solutions. You need to, from time to time, you need to identify issues and find solutions, in your content, even in your procedure, in your teaching procedure and teaching techniques, in the way of delivering your lessons. Maybe there are some issues that learners have with the language themselves. Maybe some issues learners have as learners, as an individual. He's suffering from, he has got special needs. Uh, he is suffering from something. What are the learning styles, and so on. And also you need to be able to bridging competencies. You try to, while you are delivering the lesson, you try as much as you can to deliver a differentiated kind of learning, differentiated instruction. Your instruction should be suitable for different levels. You should start from lower level, and then you should be able to in fact address the needs of all your learners, bearing in mind that they might have different language levels and different language abilities. You need to be able to design your lesson so that your lesson would be able to engage all the learners, all the learners, although some of them they might have got a very low language proficiency. You need to be aware of how you can do that, how to differentiate and how to deliver an effective differentiated instruction inside the classroom. And this differentiated instruction would help you to engage the learners, all your learners. And if you are able to engage all the learners in the lesson, you will find out at the end of the lesson, most of your language or most of your learning objectives will be achieved. And you will find, you will build a very positive rapport with your learners. And this is, in fact, would help you to accumulate and build a very successful learning experience, which we as educators, we are looking for. We are looking for interaction. We are looking for, building a successful learning experience for you as a teacher and for the learners as well. Okay, the social distance classroom, there are some challenges there: distancing, masks, static exercises, pods, limited class sizes, handouts and photocopying might be restricted, partitions, staggering, class times, collaboration, monitoring, and correction. So this, of course, depends on where you are teaching. I think nowadays in the Far East, in Korea and in China, they are facing some kind of another wave of the virus. And I think North Korea has already closed down because there's a widespread of coronavirus, there. So they might be at a certain stage, they might resort to socially distanced classroom. You as a teacher, you need to be aware of how you can deal with this environment, how you can deal with this kind of restrictions, in order not to affect the quality of your teaching, and not to affect the quality of learning, or how much the learners have already gained from your class. So what are the areas of major consideration? I need to classroom management. So whenever you are teaching online, you should have got some classroom management procedure that you need to resort to. If you are teaching, blended learning in a socially distanced classroom, you need to, in fact, adapt and find out procedures and techniques that would help you in managing your class, managing your content, managing the learners, managing instruction, managing the responses, so that at the end of the class you have achieved your learning outcomes, or the learning outcomes of your learners, or you have given the learners what do they need. What are the impact, or what is the impact of this different context on the syllabus? Of course, different learning context will have an impact on context. You'll find out some lessons might be only suitable to be delivered face to face. Some lessons I can deliver them, online. Some lessons I might be able to deliver them. I might ask my learners, give them some instructions, ask them to watch some videos, and maybe do a task, and so on. So in fact, this is in fact has an impact on the syllabus, on the content that you are going to prepare and to design for your learners. Monitoring progress, as I told you, assessment tools should change, should be designed. They should be compatible with the learning context, with the learner needs, so that they will be effective and would help you to see what learners have learned, what learners maybe still have not learned, and you need to maybe follow up in the coming lessons. Material management, and of course, pastoral care. You need to provide, even if you are teaching online, you need to provide, pastoral care for your learners. We are teaching humans. They have feelings, emotions. Sometimes learners are so active, so engaged. Sometimes they are tired, they are down, they are not so engaged. So you as a teacher, you need to talk to them, to find out, to motivate them, to give them intrinsic and extrinsic motivation from time to time, so that you keep, their motivation high, and this would help them to continue and to progress, and to benefit from the lessons that you are delivering, and from, doing the tasks that you already assigned in your lesson and in your course. Okay, so this is just, I want to share, this saying at the end, which is whatever, any kind of activity that you are going to do, try to follow some kind of order in this activity. Okay, yeah. Here, what is the order? Is that if you have got some kind of classroom management techniques that you think that are suitable for a certain context, so try them out, and try from time to time to keep an eye on them. Try to evaluate them to see what is effective, what is not effective. Try maybe to use different methods. Try maybe to get rid of some methods that you think that they are not beneficial, or they are not, engaging, and so on. The point here that I want to say is, good order is the foundation of all things. So try to have logical order, to have some kind of order in what you are doing. So whatever procedure or technique you are following, this technique should have a kind of a rationale. Ask yourself why you are doing, or why you are following this procedure, and then Try to give yourself time to monitor the procedure and see how effective it is, and try maybe to adapt it and to maybe change it if you want, or you need to, in order to make it, more effective. So keep this kind of order for some time would help you to evaluate what you are doing, to help you even to gain more competencies as well. So try to build up some kind of routine, some kind of order in what you are doing in different contexts. So that would give you ample time to evaluate and also to adapt, or maybe at the end to decide maybe to change what you are doing altogether and maybe try something new. Okay, so you can never plan the future by the past. And as I told you, order is the school of mankind, and they will learn at no other. I need order, I need routine, I need some kind of repetition of certain things to be done in order to be sure, in order to find out whether they are effective or not, and to find out whether they need some kind of backup. In order to be suitable, they need maybe a slight modification, or they need to be maybe totally modified, or maybe I need to change them altogether. I need to decide, and order would help me to find out and to take this decision. Okay, so what are some key competency areas? So first of all, the lesson, the tasks, activities, and materials should be suitable for the context that you are teaching, whether it is face-to-face, whether it is young learners, adults, blended, whatever. Interacting with learners, you have to interact with your learners. You have to use some kind of tools to interact with your learners. You have to design tasks that would help you to interact smoothly with all your learners. Lesson management, using digital media, monitoring learning, self-assessment, and teacher autonomy, learner needs and learning processes, and lesson aims and outcomes, that you need to find out and find evidence about whether they have been achieved or not. So what the implication after looking into the competencies guideline and identifying the competencies that you have, and maybe you might identify some competencies that you think that you need to develop. So what you need to do, you need to find out training courses. These training courses, you can yourself design your own training course by watching videos, by maybe watching some people getting some kind of materials from online materials from the internet, whatever, reading. Try things out yourself. So this is in fact would help you to gain a competencies. Uh, Curriculum framework and documentation. You need as well, you need to be able to know what is the curriculum framework and documentation, what kind of skills you need to develop in your own curriculum. You need to be aware of that. Mentoring, you need to be able to mentor, uh, you need to be able to mentor your colleagues. By mentoring colleagues, or if you are an experienced teacher, if you mentor some of your novice teachers, would help you as a teacher to develop. Also, it would help you to exchange expertise with different people. So mentoring is a procedure that would help you to exchange expertise and experience with people who have more experience, with people who maybe who have less experience. And of course, engaging in teacher development programs. They might be formal ones, there might be informal ones. If you are engaged even in a discussion with a group of teachers, might be a teacher development also program, maybe to reflect on the curriculum or assessment, or to reflect on the performance of your learners, anything, and suggesting ideas, ways, methods that would help you to develop your learners and develop your institution. Okay. um, yeah, these just some of the courses that I deliver personally, BD courses. Like I deliver TESOL courses to improve teaching competencies. language awareness course to develop language analysis skills, Delta Module 1 exam preparation course. I deliver Delta Module 2 preparation course and Delta Module 3. How to teach exam classes, especially IELTS and TOEFL and FCE. How to teach using technology. Key concepts of testing and assessment, and how to design and construct achievement exams, proficiency exams, placement tests, and so on. Research skills and rhetoric, writing and composition, syllabus design and course design. These are some of the courses that I have delivered throughout my career, and I am still, delivering to teachers, right now. And I would be happy if, for example, here, or any one of you find out, or you decided that you think you need some kind of support or development on these areas, so you can contact me. And you can follow me on Facebook. This is my Facebook profile. And if you want to take the QR code, uh, just scan the QR code on social media. And this is my Facebook page, Smart Learning Options. And this is my LinkedIn also profile. And I would be happy if if you can contact with me, or you can just, we can share ideas or whatever. I will be happy to answer all your questions and all your queries. Um, th-
Oh, thank you so much, sir.
yeah.
Um,
And if
Now, we have a couple of comments, but they're mostly answers to the competency and the qualification question that you asked in the beginning. Although there's one question that seems not like an answer, but like a question. Would you like to take that? Which is, what are the competency, qualification, or other certifications? I think this member is trying to ask, certain other qualifications, maybe, for an English teacher or perhaps something like that. If you would like to take this one.
Yeah. Okay. Just as a language teacher, the qualification that you need, of course, a BA, an undergraduate qualification. It can be in English literature, in applied linguistics, in education, in whatever. You need a TESOL certification. The most well-known or recognized one is CELTA. If you can
Okay.
get, a CELTA, and CELTA is delivered online or face-to-face. Of course, immediately after you finish your BA, you need to, and it is in fact is necessary, you need to prepare your MA, and you need to have an MA also in education or in TESOL, in whatever. This is in fact would qualify you so that you can work on all institutions all over the world, whether there are schools or universities or language institutions. Also, if English is your second language, try to take IELTS and try to get band 7.5 or 8 in IELTS. This is, in fact, is important, and it is prerequisite, because some institutions, they say, okay, you are a non-native speaker, I want a language proficiency certificate. So
Okay.
prepare to take the exam, take the test. Even if you are not able to achieve that band score, I think just in 1 year of preparation, you'll be able to get the required score, and this would help you to get, a good job. If you want to develop further, so we have Delta. Delta is a diploma certification, and it is level 7. And in fact, it qualify you to become a teacher trainer. It qualify you to work on certain language institutions, like famous one like British Council or International House. So all of them, they even regard Delta, and they consider it more than MA. So, but I think the most necessary qualification is BA, MA, CELTA, and IELTS. This would be sufficient so that you can get a good job in reputable language institutions.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for taking that question and answering it so comprehensively. One more question before we wrap up is, would you have any advice or tips for language teachers in our classroom, teaching, say, grades 6 to 12 maybe, because that's also one market or one group of, audience that needs to know about, some language competencies, as you just mentioned. So, any advice for, just no voice teachers, just language teachers in our schools and colleges?
Okay. For all language teachers, as I mentioned, is you need, first of all, you need to find out and you need to know. We have three areas. You need to know your learners. Who are your learners? What are their language levels? What are the learning styles of your learners? And you need to get an idea about the educational background. You need to know what is the language proficiency that they have. You need to look at the learning outcomes that you need to achieve at the end of maybe at the end of the year, or at the end of the term, or at the end of the month. And you need to dimension, you yourself, you need to dimension the gap between the learning outcomes and your learners real level, language level and abilities. You need to find out some kind of tasks that learners need to do inside the class. You can grade the task. You can either split the task, or you can try to grade it from being easy to more difficult to more challenging, and so on. The point is that you need to understand what are the learning outcomes of the curriculum that you are teaching. You need to find out whether there is a gap between the learning outcomes, or the learning aims of the curriculum, and your learners' real language level. You yourself, as a teacher, you need to prepare the material and to know how you can grade the material, how you can make it easy, make it doable for your learners to understand and grasp. So you need to prepare the materials. You need to put them in a very engaging tasks and activities that would help, at the end of the day, to provide an evidence that your learners are able to achieve the learning outcomes set by the curriculum, or set by the syllabus of the course.
Oh, well, thank you so much for taking that answer as well, sir. And
Thank you.
once again, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your experience on a very important topic. And I hope everyone who's watching and who will eventually watch will definitely have some takeaways from your presentation and your talk.
Thank you very much, and it was my honor to be with you, and I hope that I will be with you, in the coming future in other sessions as well. And thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Thank you so
Bye.
much, and hope to see you again. Thank you.
See you again. Bye.